Hi, welcome to TXODM Garage. I'm your host, Will. Today is going to be our first episode of Project Restore Revive on this 67 Camaro SS clone. Now this car was a running and driving car when it was parked in a garage in the year 2000. And it's been buried under a bunch of stuff ever since. I just rescued this car earlier this actually it is now January 2nd, so I rescued this car at the beginning of last month and brought it down here to hopefully give it a second life. So this car originally was a regular V8 2-speed power glide car, and between 98 and 2000, according to the paperwork, this car was completely redone inside and out to make a rather convincing 350 SS clone. Now, it didn't do everything 100% right on the car, but from 20 feet away, and if you don't know Camaros very well, it's pretty convincing. It fooled me at first. I'd only heard about the car in passing here and there, but never got a chance to really get in and look at it. And all I ever saw, up until we unburied this car, was just the rear quarter panel and a little bit of the gas tank. So now, we're going to be going over this car, getting it on the road, and you're going to be following the whole journey between where it is now to where I kind of want to move it to as kind of a pro touring car. Something that I can drive daily and take road trips in. It's kind of what I want to do with this. Now, because this is a SS clone and not a real SS, I don't have to feel bad about making it what I want. So, I'm going to bring you all over here and we're going to take a look at what all we're going to be starting with right now on episode 1 and in the coming episodes of this project. Alright, well I got my key back for the door, and guess what? It didn't fit the ignition at all. So what I ended up doing is opening up the dash so I could go ahead and pull out the old ignition. Well, I had to fight it out. And now that I found it out, I can go ahead and swap in my new ignition cylinder and the new ignition switch that I just bought. So now this car is going to have 4 separate keys. Pain in the ass, but it's going to do for now until, you know, I do button switches, push button ignition, and then I can buy a lock kit to get the rest of them down. But who knows, maybe I'll just mark the keys and just have a separate keychain just for this car. Alright, so look at this. I got this door all hooked up. It's still a little off, but it's good enough for government work. It's a lot straighter than it was, and it closes all the way now. So that's nice. So here in just a few minutes, I'm waiting for a buddy to show up. We're going to be trying to fire this car up for the first time. I put a couple gallons of gas in it. I got the ignition switch and cylinder kind of jangled, kind of hooked up right now. It's not perfect, but I can do it by hand. It's time to start this car. We're gonna see how it does and if it starts and what it sounds like.
think I need a little more fuel.
Alright guys, well last night we had a very successful first startup. It ran good, sounds good. Not really anything to be concerned about as of yet. So today, I'm going to jack her up. I'm going to pull off the tires, the back wheels, and then I'm going to get started on the rear brakes. So hopefully here very soon, maybe next week, I'll be able to take this car on a test drive. Well, let's get it to it. Alright, well, I got the door nice and flush. However, I do have to give it a good sturdy slam to get it to shut like it is. So there's probably still some adjustment needing to be done there. I got the wheels pulled off to do the brakes and then discovered that the cylinders are completely toast and I'm missing parts. So I'm having to find more parts in order to do the brakes. Anyway, so I think that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to this, and then we'll return with the steering wheel swap, the trunk cylinder, all that stuff like that. Alright guys, well, I'm wearing this gaiter because something's blowing in and my allergies have been killing me for the past couple days. But today we're going to pull off that steering wheel and then get on working on installing the new one. I got the adapter kit here already. I'm waiting for the plate to actually mount the steering wheel. It's supposed to be here in a little while. But for now, I've got the steering wheel puller, so I'm going to pull the steering wheel and then see about that adapter plate getting on there. And then we'll go from there. Now, if you've never used one of these pullers before, it's pretty easy. So you find the two screw bolts that bolt in, and you thread them in to your puller like this. The problem I have are the bolts don't perfectly match. Then you take this piece here and you thread it in, and then this is what you turn to pull it out. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down these bolts. They're not an exact match, and they may strip out this little hub, which is fine because I'm replacing it. But you do want to get it in there and hold it pretty good. You want to make sure you got plenty of gauge and thread engagement. Bottom one's a little better. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to try to do it by hand with a wrench, but I do have an impact with me here in the car just in case I need a little bit more oomph on it. Alright. Okay. Let's oh, just like that. Real easy. Didn't even have to put that much force into it. That's nice. Now, let's see if I can. Alrighty, so this is the little hub. And you see this right here goes up over that. Oh, we got quite a bit of power coming through here. Huh, that's interesting. Guess let's put the nut on and see if it will tighten down. Let's see here. Let me take the spring out, see if it will go down a little bit further. Nope, there it goes. Okay, I guess let me put that spring back on. If I don't need to use the puller to get it back off. Let's see, this should be a small one. Yeah, so how do I do this here? I guess this style, I'll take this and I'll use the little jaw puller that comes with. Out. There we go. Now I was just able to do it by hand. So let me set this off to the side. Put this spring back on here like it's supposed to go. Okay. Got all kinds of holes to the back of this. Huh. I wonder if you could put this technically backwards and then mount your steering wheel directly to this. Curious about that. Nah, holes don't match up properly. Alright, so put that nut. Where did I put that nut? There it is. Pretty much going to see if I can get that to set on there, but I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Still not on the threads. Let me fiddle with this a little bit more and get back to y'all. Alright, so I guess for this specific kit, the spring, the original spring that sits back here isn't necessary. So I'm going to run this through here and kind of put you pop you in here. This is the horn contact. Now it says that I'm supposed to put this spring down in here, but because I have the plunger here already, I don't think it's necessary. So I'm going to pop it in here and kind of arrange it like so. I think the kit told me I'm supposed to take this out. I don't see the point. So let me see here. Maybe I can kind of mix this kit up a little bit. Put this here, like so. And we'll insulate. Okay. I want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little plastic collar here and I'm going to cut it down. That way I can still fit it down inside of here on top of the, over the other plunger. And so it would still insulate this piece here and give it contact. But won't allow the plunger to move around or anything like that. So I'm going to cut that and see what I can do with that. Okay, so you can see I cut that little piece down just short enough to where it will still go in there. So I'm going to pop that back into its little holder in there like that. And now I should be able to get this in here. I tell you what, probably going to be easier to push it in first and then run it through. So. Pop it on, get it started. Sometimes with old cars and stuff like this, you have to kind of improvise a little bit. You need to kind of chamfer the edge here to make it go in a little easier. Now, the only bad thing about doing this like this is if you ever have to get this out, your best bet is going to be doing it at the same time as you do the puller, and then pulling it out. One of these right there. Just lightly tap it in. I don't want to tap it in too far because I want, when I sandwich the plate down on top of it, I want to have the plate kind of level it out. So now I'm going to put you back in here like so. Snap you on. Okay. Maybe I need to go down a little bit further. I kind of want to get it set in deep enough to where I can pop this cap over. Use the actual. So we'll rotate these around where the holes match separately. Then screw these down. This is just to hold it on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the washer and the nut here on the center and then tighten it down. And I should press that little bushing into place. And that should give me what I need as far as getting it level and flat. See how that went. Okay, that's pressed in pretty good. Maybe not quite as far as I want. I might want it to go in a little bit deeper. Now also be aware that sometimes when you put these plates on and you tighten it down, you might have to shim the inside of this plate right here a little bit, just in case it doesn't come down too much. Because if you look, this comes up perfectly on here, but you don't want it to go any further than that. So I'm going to get this pressed in the rest away and get this hub installed. Okay, so the adapter came in, and I got like the real thin one because eventually I do plan on putting a quick disconnect steering wheel on this car. So I wanted it as thin as possible, that way the steering wheel isn't, you know, way forward. But the way this is pretty much how wide it is, it has to go under the nut in the washer. So I'm going to pull the washer back off again. I'm going to set these screws. I can't set the screws because I got to put the screws through here. But I'm just going to take off the nut in the washer, pop this on, put the screws on it to kind of hold it in place, then tighten everything back up, and then I'll get back to y'all. Now at this point in the install, these 3 bolts actually help hold down and keep this adapter on. So now I can actually tighten these on permanently now and not have to worry about anything. Now I don't know if they're gonna be, if they're too deep. That would be problematic if they are too deep. I might have to go to the store and get some. Yeah, I think that they are too deep. Nope. I take that. Alright, so that was the locksmith he just called. The trunk lock is done. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull one of these out. And to be honest, I'm going to mark it first with a permanent marker. And I'm going to have to go find me 3 bolts that are actually shorter. That way I can actually tighten this down all the way. And then I'll be back when I do that. Alright, so basically what it is these have a shank on it. I guess one of the adapters, the actual brand adapter that goes on here has a bigger hole. And that shank's on there so it can actually sit inside of it. But because I'm using a different adapter, and it's got that shank, I just need to go find me a bolt that either does not have that shank or is just a little shorter than this with no shank. So I'm gonna go pick up that lock. I'm gonna return the steering wheel puller and find me some new bolts. Now, something you always got to remember when you're doing these custom installs, or actually custom work at all in vehicles, you're going to run into snags that you got to figure out and kind of tinker around and come up with solutions on your own. So this is a good example of that. So first of all, the bolts I found, the shortest ones I could find, which were 3/4 inch, was still a little too long. So I had to shim them up with some washers in order to get them to not bottom out and to get on there nice and tight. So that's now installed. All it's installed. The other issue is the original horn setup that was on here wasn't going to work with the way that the horn was set up on here. So this is the horn button for the steering wheel I got, and if you look and see, it's the button itself is the switch, and it has the 2 connectors. So what I did is I went ahead and switched out to a nice insulated connector for the horn power, and then I grounded it to this to one of the bolts here. So now I can go in, and you can't really hear it because the horn doesn't work, but you can hear the horn clicking. So now there's a horn. So now I can kind of fiddle all the wires up in here and then close this down on top. Now the other thing that I had to do is I had to kind of open up a couple of these little screw holes here in order to get all the bolts to go through into the steering wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this mounted up right now and get the steering wheel on here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go with another one of those problems that I couldn't had really predicted. And because I went with such a short, shallow adapter plate, there's not enough room for the horn mechanism to go down in the center here. So the problem that I now have is the horn wires. Well, I mean, the whole horn mechanism isn't going to fit. I mean, I can empty this out and make this go on here, and then I can move a horn to somewhere else. Or I am going to eventually have to get a taller adapter to to put on here, because this wheel is going to go right on here, just tight like that. So there's not really any room at all to squeeze all this stuff in. I'm gonna try to figure this out, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so like I said earlier, when you're doing custom work, you usually have to sometimes figure out how to rig stuff up to make it work the way you want. So what I did is I took the ring here that had the horn on it, and I cut that all off with a Dremel and popped just that bezel back in there. And I got the center cap that still fits in like this in the center. Now the problem is none holds it in, so I'm going to be using the spring still to hold it in. But what I got to do is I got to take this bezel now. It's got to go backwards through the steering wheel, like so. Then I got to put this bezel on top, like this, and get the spring pressure on it with the cap in it, and then screw it down. So I'm going to need like 5 hands to do this. So I'm going to turn off the camera for this, and then when I get it all on there, I'll be back. Alright, well, it is in now. The quick disconnect that I am going to put on here, it should have its own little thing for the horn. So, depending on how I end up having to do this, I might have to buy another centerpiece here, because I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should have not chopped that up, because when I do the quick disconnect, it's going to have that extra room in there, and then I could have used the factory horn. Oh, you know, hindsight 2020. Anyways, the wheel is on. I don't really like how close it is to the turn signal, but it does not touch. But like I said, once I get the quick disconnect on it, it's going to bring it forward like 2 inches. So about right in here somewhere. And then it won't be an issue anymore. There's something else I do have a slight concern about, and that's that. I have to look into that, see exactly where that slack is. If it's on the other side, on the little coupler, maybe that's where it is. I might pop the hood here in a few minutes and take a look at that. But and I didn't really tighten this down a whole lot, because when the bezel comes in, for me to put the ignition back in, I'm gonna have to take the wheel back off again. Well, I don't have to, but it would be easier if I take the wheel off again, so I can finagle the gauge cluster back into the the dash. So at this point, I don't really have anything else I can do on the car until more parts show up. Right now, I'm waiting on the rest of the brake parts, so I can get the brakes set up. I'm waiting on the bezel of the tool to hook up the ignition. Yeah, that's all I'm waiting on right now. You know, I'm broke. I do need to buy another window regulator. I might do that this week. That way I can go ahead and put the door panel back on the driver's side door and get that finished up. Basically, all I'm really waiting on is just the brake stuff, so I can get the rear brakes working, or at least start looking at the brakes to see if the brakes aren't going to be blown or not. So, it is what it is. What I may do, another thing I may do, depending on how I like it, is if I don't figure out a way to redo this, I might do like a push button horn like on the steering wheel up here. So I mean, get it power like something like that. I don't know. I don't want to do a dash one or something like that. I want it to be on the steering wheel. Ugh. All that slack makes me remember my '79 Camaro and my Jeeps like that. This car is gonna get rack and pinion one day in the future, when I can have the money to buy the whole front subframe kit. I'm gonna do a rack and pinion on it eventually, but Well, I'll see y'all when I get some more parts.